Remember, the real problem isn't the boobs or the butts. They are simply a means to an end. So let me just pull the Band-Aid off, or rather, pull the pin out of the grenade. Lots of Christian women will say myriads upon myriads, at least within respectable circles, while being very respectably holy and such, post pics to elicit the exact same response, namely, attention and affirmation. They just do it in a very Christianly way. Anyone who has ever spent any time on social media has probably noticed that oftentimes when women share pictures of themselves, their boobs and their butts have a funny way of photobombing these otherwise innocent pictures. Honestly, what woman hasn't gone to take a selfie of her face and had her uncovered boobs just mischievously jump right into the pic? Or when trying to take a picture of your back, had the frame too wide and accidentally got your uncovered or perhaps tightly covered butt in the pic. Just speaking frankly, if I had $1 for every time that happened to me, I'd be a rich man. However, given the volume at which these accidents happen, I think it would be completely reasonable to conclude that some of these pics are actually intentional and not accidents at all. So then, the reasonableness of my hypothesis that these are not accidents at all, why do women do this? There are a multitude of reasons, the likes of which we certainly can't explore now. However, I think all would agree, if nothing else, that said pics are a way of eliciting attention and affirmation, not just of men, but also of women. With men, this is obvious. The flesh always gravitates towards the flesh. I'll show you a pound of flesh, you give me a pound of praise, for which the market is never in short supply and seems to be ever growing. Again, this much should be painfully obvious. However, I also said that women share these pics not just to elicit the attention and affirmation of men, but also of women, albeit not in the same way. Women aren't trying to elicit the attention of other women in a lustful lesbo way. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but so too in many ways is her beauty. Every woman in some respects longs to be Eve, the only woman in the garden and the object of pursuit, or the standard and archetype of feminine beauty and desirability. In short, whether known or unknown, intentional or unintentional, often these pics are shared to elicit the lust of men and the envy of women. Men will look because they want to consume, and women will look because they want to compare. At this point, I think most would agree, if not reluctantly, because it's kind of hard not to notice and all. So then, the boobs and the butts are simply a means to elicit a desired end. Most Christian women, with the exception of some big Eva types, would be disgusted by these pics and see them as a painfully obvious way of trying to elicit attention, and they would never do such a thing, though many come to church dressed like they are taking the twins out for a night on the town, or wearing their pants so tight that you definitely don't notice their thong. But these women are way too holy to ever take a picture of said crackery on either end. So, this does happen in Christian circles as well, but far more often than not, it is nowhere near as obvious. In fact, the Christian equivalent of the butt pic is considered respectable, and dare I say even desirable. Remember, the real problem isn't the boobs or the butts. They are simply a means to an end. So, let me just pull the Band-Aid off, or rather, pull the pin out of the grenade. Lots of Christian women will say myriads upon myriads, at least within respectable circles, while being very respectably holy and such, post pics to elicit the exact same response, namely, attention and affirmation. They just do it in a very Christianly way. Here is a picture of some sourdough I just baked. Here is the latest DIY I just did all by myself. Here is a random pic of me smiling with all of my children, which we do all of the time. Or here is a pic of the perfect meal I just baked. Or of some stupid essential oil or homeopathic healing potion I just concocted. Or here is a picture of me spontaneously milking a cow on my homestead that someone just so managed to get a picture of. Weird. Or here's a video of me describing how awesome I am at hospitality. Or of me describing to you how you can have a perfect home and marriage, like me, an early 30-something who has 3 kids and knows everything. Or my favorite, the humble videos or pics that are meant to communicate that they too don't have it all together, just like you, which means they are real and relatable while still being better than you. Wow, she does it all. Some may protest at this point by saying the former, boobs and butts, are obviously gratuitous, while the latter is commendable and such. Older women teaching younger women and Proverbs 31 and stuff. I would argue that this is not the equivalent of the older women teaching younger women how to manage their homes. The Proverbs 31 woman is not someone who has to toot her own horn on social media. Perhaps, before you post those awesome pics of yourself being awesome, you should ask yourself, is this really an example of an older woman helping a younger woman manage her home? Perhaps a good question to ask when watching a video is this video instructive? Will this information help me manage my home better? Or is it just self-exalting? Or here's another one for you. What in the world is the context? Yeah, this chick may seem like she has it all together on social media, but her husband is a stay-at-home dad, so his wife can help the world be awesome Christian women, which is why she has so much time to be awesome and have it all together and stuff. Who is the face and representative of this home? Who is the head? Be careful what you want to imitate. Again, the flesh gravitates towards the flesh and stuff. Ask yourself, who is the spiritual head and public face and voice of this household? Do you know who their husbands are? Do you really care? Do you think that matters? Also, context is everything. Boobs and butts have their proper context as well. Namely, marriage, not public consumption. A woman who keeps her home does so for the glory of God and her husband. It is a wonderful thing that a woman would keep her home and keep it well. Also, I am not saying that there is never a place or a proper context with which to share some homemaking tips. I am saying that the vast majority of the time, it is the equivalent of the Christian butt pic that is meant to elicit envy in other women. More often than not, these pictures, posts, and videos are not reality, or at least are only half of the story, and more often than not, they are the equivalent of an airbrushed ass, and no one is going to call it out because it can be good as far as it goes, and because it's respectable and stuff. Pride and self-righteousness often look good on the surface, kind of like a whitewashed tomb or something. A woman who is content in the Lord and her husband shouldn't need to elicit the praise and affirmation of other women because of her buns. Sourdoughs, of course. You go, girl. Can these types of pics and posts and blogs and websites ever be helpful? Certainly, but oftentimes they just become a medium for women who are desperate for attention and affirmation and not getting it from their husband to seek it elsewhere in a respectable way, or a medium for proud, self-righteous women to elicit envy in a respectable way. Lady Folly, you know, the one who is portrayed as a whore, is the one in the marketplace and in the square tooting her own horn. She is loud and boastful, which still holds true, even if it's disguised in Christianese. No one takes the picture of the dry morsel or the quiet home, but these are preferred over the house full of feasting where strife is. Proverbs 17:1. A woman's identity is to be found in Christ, not in some whitewashed social media ideal. Likewise, the standard of a well-managed home is to be found in Christ, not in some social media ideal any more than your standard of beauty is to be found in another woman's butt. If a woman is trying to elicit lust in a man, we rightly call it out. If she is trying to elicit envy from her sisters in Christ, we should call that out as well, even when it looks super holy, or perhaps especially when it looks super holy. So ladies, nobody cares about or wants to see your buns. Sourdough, of course. Cheers.